You're very low, John, just so you know.
Okay.
Got 7:01.
Yes, you may begin.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Voorhees Township Committee meeting of December 13th, 2021. Would everyone please rise and join me in a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
liberty
with
and
liberty and
justice for
justice
all.
for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Peproy,
Present.
Mr. Platt,
Here.
Mr. Ravitz,
Here.
Ms. Nacito,
Here.
Mayor McNona,
Here.
Okay. This meeting is being held in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. Due notice of this meeting has been published by the clerk in both the Courier Post and Inquirer newspapers, as well as electronic notice as required by law. Also, a copy of the annual meeting notice has been posted on the bulletin board outside the Township Clerk's office. Township Committee believes in the rights of citizens to observe and comment during committee public meetings. To ensure that all citizens have the opportunity to participate, Township Committee has adopted certain guidelines which will be read prior to any public comment.
Thank you very much. Our first matter this evening is the second reading of an ordinance vacating, releasing, and extinguishing any and all public rights to a portion of the paper street known as 11th Avenue, contiguous to Block 293, Lot 2, to become Block 270, Lot 28, and Block 295, Lot 1, to become Block 270, Lot 66, on the tax map of the Township of Voorhees, subject to certain terms and conditions. This is the second reading of an ordinance. If anyone from the public has any comments, please join in.
Seeing no one from the public with comments on this issue, move to close public portion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public portion on that ordinance is closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Peproy,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Ms. Nacito,
Yes.
Mayor McNona.
Yes, so carried. Our next matter is the second reading of an ordinance vacating, releasing, and extinguishing any and all public rights to a portion of the paper street known as 12th Avenue, contiguous to Block 295, Lot 1, to become Block 270, Lot 66, and 296, Lot 1, to become Lot 270, Lot 67, on the tax map of the Township of Voorhees, subject to certain terms and conditions. This again is the second reading of an ordinance. If anyone from the public has any comments on this ordinance, please join in.
Seeing no one,
Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
move to close public portion. Jinx.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The public portion on that ordinance is closed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Peproy,
Yes.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Nacito,
Yes.
Mayor Mignona.
Yes, so carried. Our next matter is the first reading of an ordinance of the Township of Voorhees, County of Camden, and State of New Jersey, amending ordinance number 386-21, entitled Section 152-70, Cannabis Establishments. This is the first reading of an ordinance. I've asked our Planning Board and Zoning Board Solicitor Stuart Platt to give us a brief overview of this proposed ordinance. And typically, we don't have a public portion, but I know there's a level of interest in this. So when Mr. Platt is done, I will open it to the public for any comments. Mr. Platt?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, members of committee and members of the public and staff. What you have before you today is a culmination of a lot of hard work and participation by various residents, all the members of Township Committee, including the mayor, and staff, including Larry Spellman and Mario Di Natale, and our Township Planner, Mika Opti, who's also in this meeting. By way of brief background, in August, the town adopted what is known as an opt-in cannabis ordinance. And that ordinance allowed for a number of different types of cannabis businesses to be in certain areas of the town. And we placed a number of conditions on the different cannabis businesses, depending upon the type of business and the location of the business. And they're really spread out on the record of that in the adopted ordinance that was passed by unanimously back in August. If people recall who were on that meeting, I know everybody here was, at least from committee, that there was an amendment at that time having to do with playgrounds and other locations and some other restrictions and requirements that we would place on cannabis businesses. Essentially, as a land use ordinance, it'd have to go through the development approval process. This would basically lay the backdrop of where and under what circumstances a cannabis business can be developed in Voorhees Township. And so the ordinance that is before you tonight on first reading is a culmination of the amendment, if you will, that was adopted on first reading, never adopted. So now it's been incorporated into this overall amended ordinance that we're here for tonight. So all of those conditions, specifically the playground limitations that we discussed at that meeting, they're all incorporated into this ordinance. The real fundamental essence of this amended ordinance, besides that, is that the Township Committee members and staff and professionals listened to the residents' concerns at the August hearing and decided to change the type of businesses that would be allowed under any circumstance in the township. And just to reiterate real quickly, the cannabis businesses under the statute that was authorizing local ordinances back in February of this year had six type of business licenses or cannabis businesses. Class 1 being a cultivation or grow facility, Class 2 being a manufacturing facility, Class 3 being a wholesale facility that basically stores for resale or for resale to retail, Class 4 being distribution, Class 5 being a retail or dispensary or pharmacy type of operation, and Class 6, which is a transport, which really can't be regulated anyway because it's interstate commerce. In the earlier version of this ordinance, the township allowed, or the ordinance provided, a permitted use in certain areas along Route 73 and on Laurel Oak, the Class 1 and Class 2 type of licenses, the cultivation or grow facilities, and the manufacturing. The residents were extremely concerned about a number of issues: noise, noxious odors, and the impact on the quality of life for for them, especially those that were near residential areas. So what this amendment does is it completely takes out the Class 1 grow or cultivation license and the Class 2 manufacturing license from any place in the confines of Voorhees Township. So Class 1 and Class 2s are out all over the place. So that's the committee really reacting to the biggest issues that we had at that meeting. The other major element is we've, of course, put into the ordinance now the 1,000-foot limitation from playgrounds, and it's defined specifically in the ordinance. There's a 1,000-foot proximity limitation from child or daycare centers. And there's a 1,000-foot limitation from schools that are also maintained from the original ordinance. The Township Committee has evaluated the locations where cannabis businesses would be permitted. And at this point, we're only allowing the Class 3, 4, and 5, which is wholesale distribution and retail in certain limited situations with all those other conditions. And as a result of that, we're able to reduce the proximity limitations to 500 feet from a residentially zoned property and 500 feet from places of worship, because traditionally they only really operate on select days of the week. So there was a major qualitative change to relieve the issues the residents were concerned about. And there was a reevaluation of where the businesses can go, because the other restrictions of proximity in a lot of cases really made it almost impossible to locate a cannabis business within the township. So having said that, there's an ordinance, and then there's an overlay map that goes with the ordinance that shows the different locations. And then there's an illustrative map that actually takes away the overlay map. The overlay map is needed from a land use standpoint because it goes hand in hand with the nature of the amendment to the cannabis ordinance. But there's also an illustrative map that shows where the cannabis business can be located. And just another additional note, in particular, the residents that live on the Sturbridge side of Route 73 had asked that the Township Committee consider limiting this business between Signal Hill and William Feather to just possibly only dispensaries, Class 5 licenses, and on that side of Route 73. And the Township Committee, through this ordinance, if adopted, would honor that. In addition, there would be no cannabis businesses permitted along Route 73 on that side, although there would be an ability to have a Class 5 retail dispensary on the other side, or the virtuous side, because it was appropriate to believe that medicinal or medical cannabis is now part of the healthcare and health and welfare type of medical uses that are going in the current state of the art of treatment of pain management and other afflictions. So there would be an ability to have in one location on the other side of Route 73 while still maintaining all the other conditions. So in a nutshell, there you have the qualitative changes where we're pulling out the types of businesses which the residents were most concerned with, and allowing cannabis businesses in the three classes that we talked about with a lot of limitations and conditions in order for them to ever get a development approval. Naturally, this would have to go for second reading and final adoption, and anybody that wanted to develop a cannabis business would have to do what any other developer would in any other type of zoning ordinance. They would have to apply to the planning board for development approval. So that's what I would say at second reading and final adoption, Mayor, and that's basically the ordinance amendment in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, this is the first reading, but due to the level of interest, I will open it up. If anyone from the public has any comments on this proposed ordinance, please join in.
Please use the raise hand feature if you're going to make any comments. Seeing nobody raising their hand, make any comments, move to close public portion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public portion on that first reading is closed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make some comments on the amended ordinance. Wanted to start by saying that I appreciate the hard work and efforts of everyone on this committee, all of the township employees and all of our professionals in working through this ordinance and its amendments. I think with the amended ordinance as presented tonight on first reading, maintains the character and integrity of our town's community and land use standards while permitting a new industry that was overwhelmingly approved by our residents and which would allow a new type of business and therefore potentially jobs and new tax revenue to have a home here. I have considered the concerns, as we all have, presented by members of our community, including in the Sturbridge communities and others who have reached out to me or otherwise engaged with me and others of committee in discussion on this issue. I'm also grateful to friends of mine who took the time to educate me, lead me in the direction of certain research and ideas that I maybe would not have thought of before, and who took the time to help all of us in our consideration of this amended ordinance. I believe that the ordinance as amended by the proposed reading tonight amply protects the interests of our community generally and specifically in connection with the concerns raised at previous meetings and those raised to me directly, as well as those comments in support of cannabis facilities, providing an avenue for a fledgling and new industry to develop commercial property in Voorhees and for Voorhees to have the opportunity to receive additional revenue beyond property taxes under the state law. I'd like to address what I've considered and what I believe most of my colleagues have considered to have been some of the major discussion points during our journey. First, the reminder that legalization was not on the table. It was handled at the state level, and Township Committee only has influence on zoning for the town. The committee has worked with its boards, planners, and other professionals to ensure that the permitted zones are in areas in which the integrity of the area and town would not suffer a material adverse change. Secondly, the committee has mandated buffer zones around schools and playgrounds, residential zones, and places of worship. For cannabis establishments, we have added a provision requiring security and for a security plan to be approved by our local police department. We are not leaving the security of these facilities and of our residents to strangers. I believe that the amended ordinance is appropriate to ensure the safety of our community. Still, however, I of course encourage residents, especially parents, to engage their teachers, faculty, and school boards in discussion regarding education of our youth. I'm confident that the parents in our community will continue as the amazing parents that they are and educate their children about the illegality of cannabis for youths as we do with alcohol and nicotine. I'm also confident that our police department will continue to liaise with the schools and families, as they always do, to educate our teachers and our youth in this regard. Third, and to that point, my trust in and respect for our police department is immense, as I believe is the members of our communities. While my research indicates by and large the legalization of cannabis does not cause an increase in crime, I feel confident that with the Voorhees Township Police Department as a partner, we can ensure the continued safety of our residents. Fourth, the town has adequate protections in place to avoid significant traffic impacts, including through its usual zoning and planning regulations. Plainly, while I personally appreciate this issue very much, and just like driving, as many of you know, the zoning of already permitted businesses by right would have the same or more of a traffic impact in the areas that are permitted and developable here. Development is development, And the corridors on which we have them are already zoned for this type of business that would have relative and relevant traffic. I hope that we continue to work with businesses and residents in our town, as well as our neighboring towns, the county, and the state to ensure safe travel of our residents and through our town. Much as this committee with my predecessor did in connection with the development of Patient First on 561, and as we are currently looking at on Deputy Mayor Nacito's recommendation in disallowing Lafayette left turns. Again, the concerns described related to traffic impact would be universal to any business, and I'm unwilling personally to set such a precedent that would discourage all types of businesses on a highway that would be permitted in any event. Fifth, the statutory and regulatory construct provides high-level protections, such as requiring cannabis businesses to contain owners and can engage with neighbors who may have concerns about their presence, as well as implement environmental sustainability plans. Prohibitions on the use of harmful ingredients or chemicals, requiring cannabis business to have consumer education materials, and strict requirements that products sold in stores come with warning statements. These protections and requirements will be carefully monitored by our Voorhees Township Police Department in compliance with all protections will be strictly enforced. Six, the exclusion of cannabis establishments on the southbound side of 73 between Signal Hill and William Feather primarily affects one business, which is Virtua and the Virtua campus. Virtua has been a wonderful community partner in Voorhees and as a medical establishment providing a high-level holistic health and wellness services, it should have the opportunity to consider this on their campus or surrounding areas. Accordingly, I did not believe that further exclusions across 73, in addition to the exclusions that we did include in tonight's amended ordinance, were necessary to provide further protections, but instead would represent an overreach that disproportionately affects a potential business that is a widely renowned health facility and a great community business partner. We also considered that the natural barrier of the state highway provides an additional layer of separation. Finally, however, my personal research did indicate that legalization of cannabis and introduction of cannabis in communities is largely just too new, and I could not find credible evidence sufficient to assure me that the cultivation and manufacturing would not adversely affect our town or our values or potential values, including of residential values in our town. Moreover, I didn't feel confident that these types of facilities were consistent with our current use and composition. Based on this, I believed and advocated on the elimination of classes 1 and 2, as articulated very well by Mr. Platt earlier this evening. And as he stated, and for those of you who may not recall, the class 1 establishments would be grow or cultivation, class 2 establishments would be manufacture or process. Under the current amended ordinance, these establishments in class 1 and class 2 would not be permitted in the township under this amended ordinance, excuse me. As such, I support the ordinance as amended tonight, presented this evening, which would allow for cannabis development with industry-specific restrictions in the areas that were identified on the map that was circulated with the agenda. And I believe that it is for the benefit of our town after having taken into consideration a variety of the information presented to us by our residents. And again, I thank committee, our professionals, and particularly thank our neighbors and my neighbors and friends who are willing to speak with me and help educate me on this issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments from our committee?
Yes.
One of the residents has their hand up if maybe you want to open public again for a second after our committee has a chance to speak.
Yeah. So Carrie, I'm sorry, were you going to speak? I was going to say.
That was just to make that note, that's all.
Okay, sorry.
Hi, Michelle, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief because I think that Committee Woman Fetbrick covered everything for all of us. I want to first thank her for her comprehensive research and articulation. I want to thank my fellow members of committee for being willing to, take the time, take a step back. We had a meeting previously, as you're aware, and I was not comfortable with the vote or some of the information that the residents were sharing with us that made me or led me believe that we really needed to look further into this. So I am very proud of the residents and the committee for coming together and having dialogue, respectful dialogue, because I believe that led us to where we are right now. And as hopefully everyone can see, Committeewoman February did a lot of due diligence for all of us. And essentially, I feel comfortable and confident with where we are right now at this juncture. But please, I encourage all residents, whether it's this project or anything else, please continue to come to the meetings and please continue to share your thoughts, because the only way that we as a committee can do our job. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand that we might have a member of the public or members of the public who would like to comment. So I will reopen the public portion. And if anybody from the public has a comment, please join in.
A second on that.
See Mr. Frugeria.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm just here to thank you. And I apologize because I failed to locate my raise hand feature on your initial public portion. But I want to thank you and I want to commend you because it is true that we had some input and a lot of residents expressed their opinions, but it also became obvious, especially following the comments by the mayor, Mr. Platt, Ms. Fetroit, and Ms. Nocito, that obviously you not only listened to what we had to say, but you also spent your own time thinking about this, thinking about what was best for the town, the whole town, as well as our residents over here. And I just want to really thank you and for the great job that you've done. And I was very impressed by the detailed reports that backed up your thinking on the details that went into your amendments. So again, that's it. Don't want to keep you beyond what's needed, but I wanted to be sure to show up. Just as we show up when we want something, I wanted to be sure to show up to thank you for considering this amendment tonight. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment on this proposed ordinance?
No one else has their hand up, so seeing no one else to speak, move to close public portion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The second public portion is now closed. I believe we have a motion and a second, and we were having comments from committee. Are there any other comments from our committee before we vote?
I just would like to, as I've said each previous time, that I was going to recuse myself because I had a live application in with the state of New Jersey Department of Health. As I do not have a live application in New Jersey for a cannabis license, I feel I have zero conflict and will be voting tonight to support this revised ordinance, which I believe, as Jackie summed up perfectly for all of us, that everyone from the township, whether it be committee or our township department heads who are on this Zoom, and our professionals did an awesome job of repeatedly reviewing, going over, and reworking any input that was asked for from the public or from Township Committee. So thank you and great job.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments from our committee this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Our next section is our public comment for our resolutions only this evening. If anyone from the public has a comment on any of our resolutions, please join in.
Mayor, this is Stuart Platt. May I be excused from the meeting at this time?
Do you have a note?
Only from Jason, so that
Thank you,
counts.
Stuart. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
have a good evening.
You
Thanks,
too.
thanks, sir.
Mayor, this is Mika. I'll also be stepping out. I was just listening in. So
Okay.
have a
thank
good
you,
night,
Mika.
everyone. Thank you.
Good night, Mika.
Thanks, Mika. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that has any comments on any of our resolutions this evening? Please join in.
Seeing none, move to close public portion.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? The public portion for resolutions is closed. Our resolutions this evening are resolution number 259-21, memorializing an executive session from November 22nd, 2021. Resolution number 260-21, approving amendments to the records of the tax assessor. Number 261-21, approval to cancel general and sewer capital improvement authorizations. Number 262-21, approving 2021 budget transfer number 2. Resolution number 263-21, authorizing Voorhees Township to accept a grant from the State of New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety, Office of the Attorney General, in the amount of $48,600 under the FY 2022 Safe and Secure Communities Program, subaward grant to 220434, and authorizing Mayor Michael Mignona and Police Chief Louis Bordy to execute and the Township Clerk to attest to a subaward grant and any and all documents in connection with this grant. Resolution number 264-21, authorizing the publication of a notice of intent to award contract under a national cooperative pricing agreement for fitness equipment and related accessories. Resolution 265-21, approving the release of a performance guarantee and acceptance of a maintenance guarantee for Partnership for Successful Living, Block 270, Lot 30. Number 266-21, approving the release of a maintenance guarantee for First Republic Bank, Block 161, Lot 16. Number 267-21, approving the release of a maintenance guarantee for Hedwig Place, Block 46, Lot 24. Number 265-21, approving the promotion of Richard Bleetler to the position of truck driver in the Voorhees Township Department of Public Works. Resolution number 269-21, approving the promotion of Eric Winters to the position of truck driver in the Voorhees Township Department of Public Works. Number 270-21, accepting the resignation of part-time emergency medical technician Emily Zadroga from the Voorhees Township Fire Department. Number 271-21, accepting the resignation of laborer Thomas Struckus from the Voorhees Township Department of Public Works. And resolution number 272-21, authorizing execution of a shared services agreement for tax collector services between the Township of Voorhees and the Borough of Laurel Springs. Do I have a motion for approval of those resolutions?
Motion.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. We will be needing an executive session this evening to discuss certain personnel matters. I will make a motion to go into executive session following our public meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Our next section is approval of our minutes from August 23rd, 2021, our minutes from November 15th, 2021, the court administrator's report for November, the tax collector's report for November, the treasurer's report for November, the registrar's report for November, bills for November 22nd, 2021, and bills for December 13th, 2021. Do I have a motion for approval of those?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none of those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next is comments from our committee. I would just like to remind everyone and thank our fire department for the Santa on the fire truck. Santa's in the middle of making his rounds throughout our community. To get an update as to where Santa will be this coming weekend, you can check on our website. Our fire department is also hosting Cookies with Santa this coming Saturday, December 18th from noon to 4 at the Burnt Mill Fire Station. We are also sponsoring our Celebration of Lights house decorating contest. You can go on our website to get additional details about that. I'd also like to take this opportunity, since this is our last public meeting before, to wish our community and my colleagues a very Merry Christmas. Any other comments from our committee this evening?
I want to remind everybody there's an election tomorrow. Don't forget about that. There's a bond referendum for Eastern High School. Please, if you have got the information, please go out and vote.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Platt. That is a helpful reminder, and I encourage everyone the same to please review the information and cast your vote on that.
And from Jason, I want to echo what the mayor just said. Wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and safe New Year.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Final portion is our public portion. If anyone from the public has any comments, please join in.
Seeing no one from the public raising their hand, move to close public portion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The public portion is closed, and we will now be moving into an executive session. Good evening.
Thanks, John. I think we're all back on, right?
Okay, we're all back on. We moved out of executive session and we have no other business this evening. So we are adjourned. Everybody have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.